Okay, welcome back. This is Dr. Ray Benedetto again, and we're back here with fibromyalgia success secret number 9. This is a very important one. We've touched on it a little bit previously, but what we're going to talk about is blood sugar or blood glucose. Huge problem in this country, huge problem with fibromyalgia. We're going to touch on some of the basics. I'll go over why it's important and why it needs to be addressed. Listen, from a medical standpoint, normal blood glucose levels have a very broad range. 70 to 105 are your typical ranges. Functionally, which again we've touched on in the past, we like to see a much tighter range. We look from 85 to 99 as far as your blood glucose. According to the American Diabetic Association, any blood sugar level reading of 106 to 126 is termed insulin resistance or prediabetes, and anything above 127 is diagnosed as diabetes. Now, granted, those are fasting blood glucose levels, and it's important to note that because many times I'll see patients who have been tested, and I'll ask them if they fasted or didn't eat before the test, and they'll tell me no. You need to fast at least 12 hours before the test, which means no food, no drinks or anything. Water's okay, but nothing for 12 hours. So you can get an accurate reading on these tests. Now, supporting, again, we touched on this earlier, supporting fibromyalgia nutritionally is futile. We can't even do it unless we test your blood sugar and we find out, is it high or is it too low? It's futile if it's too high or too low. We have to get it fixed. A reading below 85 would be something that we would term hypoglycemia. So hypo, under your blood sugar is too low. And a reading above 99 would be called hyperglycemia. There's also a term for this that we call dysglycemia. So your glycemia refers to blood sugar, so it's not being regulated properly, and it's a stepping stone to diabetes. Diabetes is becoming so rampant in this country that authorities are predicting that it may bankrupt our healthcare system, all the care that goes towards it. So hypoglycemia is a condition where the blood sugar repeatedly drops too low in response to high carbohydrate foods, things like sugars and breads and pastas and all that kind of stuff. It can also be a result of going too long without eating, and way too many Americans are skipping breakfast. The old saying, right, it's the most important meal of the day. It is, because you haven't eaten anything for hours and you need to get your blood sugar in check. So it's important if your blood sugar is below 85 that you eat constantly. You know, the old 5-6 meals a day. You need to eat something every 2 to 3 hours. You should have breakfast and then a snack and then lunch and another snack and dinner. And, you know, the snack can be vegetables and fruits and nuts and seeds. It obviously should be something that is not high in carbohydrates. Now, insulin resistance is kind of the opposite of that, and that is high blood sugar that hasn't yet reached the point where you're diagnosed as having diabetes. It's called prediabetes, and it's usually the result of the cells becoming, your body's cells becoming resistant to insulin, so that the insulin can't get the blood sugar or the glucose inside the cells for energy. You need glucose in your cells to make energy. It's vital. It's a huge part of life, which is why most fibromyalgia patients that have problems with this are so fatigued all the time. Your brain and your nervous system needs two things to survive. That's fuel and activation. Fuel, again, comes in the form of oxygen and glucose. You need glucose to your brain in order for it to work. And what happens is glucose travels in the bloodstream until it's turned into triglycerides for fat storage. So that's why it's important when we monitor patients and we do these tests to monitor things like triglycerides as well as glucose. The process of turning glucose into triglycerides demands a huge amount of energy, a high amount of energy, which causes you a lot of times to feel tired after you eat. Your body has to take this glucose and turn it into triglycerides. It takes a lot of energy, again, especially after eating. That's very common with a lot of people. So when you're eating high carbohydrate diet with white breads and pastas and sugar, you cannot keep your blood sugar at a stable level. You feel sleepy, you crave sugar even after you've just eaten. You just ate way too many carbohydrates. If those things happen, you just ate way too many carbohydrates. If you feel sleepy after a low carbohydrate or no carbohydrate meal, you're most likely insulin resistant. It's literally impossible to support hypoglycemia or insulin resistance unless you're eating properly, unless you eat a healthy breakfast with high quality proteins. You need to eat protein in the morning, not carbohydrates. Waffles, pancakes, cereals, they just add to the problem. You need to eat things like eggs and lean meats and sausage and those kind of things. You need to eat protein in order to support and maintain your blood sugar levels so you can do the things you want to do throughout the day. Just your normal daily activities. Even if you feel nauseous first thing in the morning, I tell my patients you have to eat breakfast. You have to eat something with protein to get it in there. It will usually relieve that nausea. Now, finally, if you have hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, you should never fast except for the test. It will make matters much worse. So I hope this has been a little eye-opener for you. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you on the next Success Secret.